Hi there, folks. Simon here. Welcome to the 2023 Intermediate TAC Open Tournament. This has been a wild ride, and now we've got a finals match between Nitzel and Tones. Tones won the most recent beginner TAC tournament, and Nitzel has been in several other tournaments, including 2 intermediate opens and 2 TAC opens. So, been in quite a few of these tournaments. And we'll see if this new player can overcome the experience that Nitzel has. But just like every game in this tournament, we are playing this on a 6x6 board with 15 minutes on the clock and a 10-second increment, meaning that 10 seconds gets added to your time after every turn. We are playing this with 2 komi, meaning that 2 gets added to Black's flat count score if the game does not end in a road. So, that is what we got going on here. And this is, like I said, the finals. So the winner of this 2 game match does win the whole tournament and gets the prize, which I believe there are actually prizes for first and second place, maybe. But the prizes are awesome. They're capstones made by Rabbit Boy 84, so they're going to be really good. But that is not all that we got going on today. We also have in the studio with us, because this is clearly a studio, we have Mayor Gills, who was also a competitor in this tournament.
Oh, hello.
Yes, and so I should probably turn off my music as well. I've had music on the whole time. So that's good to know. But yeah, we've got Mayor Gilson with us. He was in the semifinals and suffered a defeat at the hands of Tones. But honestly, that first game was amazing. It was a phenomenal game.
Yeah, the second game not so much, but we
Yeah,
can ignore that.
second game you did miss something, but I imagine your brain was a bit fried. But Tones turned out to be probably a bit better than you were expecting, considering he just came from a beginner tournament.
Well, and not only that, but even in my round robin, I had to face Klimus, or however you want to pronounce the name.
I tend to say
Who
Climace. I have
was
no idea
the
how to pronounce it, but yeah.
but yeah, he was the one who lost to Tones in the finals of the beginner tournament. So both of them are really strong players.
Yeah, this latest beginner tournament was kind of nuts. They all improved so fast and they were just stacked. But yeah. Anyway, we shouldn't keep these players waiting. Let's jump right into game one of Tones versus Nitzel, with Tones in white and Nitzel in black. Okay, and we get F6 for the first move and adjacent corners with the F1. So let's see if we're going to see a Knight's opening or mirrored opening. No,
Nope.
very different from Tones. I know that Tones, as black, likes to play white not in the corner, which is a very unorthodox opening, but that's a thing that he's done basically this whole tournament, and in the beginner tournament as well. But this is definitely a very different opening, because it sort of puts white right next to black and kind of gives away your momentum.
It almost looks like Black doing the Knights opening from like um to E4. It was like the black with the Knights opening, the white infiltrator tile, which is a
Yeah,
common sort of pattern.
it's like it was going backwards.
Yeah.
I think putting your stone right next to black stone kind of puts you at a bit of a disadvantage. Maybe evens the playing field a little bit more than you'd like.
I think it may even the playing field for the opening, but it might be playing for a long game. Because as long as you have flats next to your opponents, you can't really lose easily.
Hmm. Now
I
here's
don't
where
know
I would
about that
expect a
capstone.
capstone at D4 to get dropped.
Yeah.
And there it is. Now, personally, if I were black, I probably would have dropped that capstone at D4. The where white's capstone went, just because it still works for your horizontal, it still works for being able to cut off white's horizontal, and it does a better job of both of those.
I agree. But the position we have here, C5 is going to come right and threaten the throw onto F5 eventually.
Yeah, I think that's the idea.
So it still
Um,
has that idea. It just doesn't have the horizontal.
yeah, and I think that he's going to want the horizontal because that vertical is going to collapse pretty soon and pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And that capstone at D4 is going to be able to shut down everything that he's got going on for that vertical. And there doesn't seem to be sort of a way out of that to recuperate. So this is where, if I'm white, I probably still want to play at D2 here and continue this vertical race because black won't be able to make a threat before you can sort of cut that off with your cap like you're going to do anyway. You could play down below at like E1 and sort of push that off, but I think that actually works against you in the long run. It hurts your own vertical line. So I think just continuing here at D2 is fine. Um, Playing up at E6, D6, also fine. But I probably like D2 the best. If you really want to play super defensive, you could play at F3 and use that to come up or left to cut things off. But I don't know how necessary that is.
Yeah, I was looking at E1. I think E1 is good, but it gets responded to with D1, which kind of cuts off a lot. So yeah, D2.
Yep, and
Wait.
that immediate capstone right.
Yep.
Now
I
this is
don't know
where
that that was
E6
actually
makes a lot of
necessary.
sense.
I don't know that I think the cap right might have been early. Playing E1 first,
I agree.
letting white make the threat.
I agree. Cap right was early.
Now white gets E1. I assume we see a D1 play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But the
now,
F1 protecting E1
well, and you've
is
also
very
got, you
strong.
can drop as white at F2 now.
Yeah. F2 or F3 both look pretty good. Or you could ignore it. You have the vertical pretty well under control and play something like C4, C3, start working toward a horizontal.
Yeah. Or
Or
C2 also works. Even
or even
C1 works.
C1. Yeah. C2 is also good because black could play C2 threatening to um, capture onto D2 instead of D1 right, but
Yeah.
I don't know how strong that really is.
That's what I was thinking, actually, to be a stronger threat than the others. If white doesn't occupy C2, that's probably where black wants to do because then black gets to drop a flat instead of capturing. Get more
Mm-hmm.
flats on the board, force some reactions out of white. White, however, now
But we
building at
do see
F3,
F3.
the defensive move that also works towards the vertical threat in later on. But that's a really strong later game move. Sort of you're planning for that later game.
Yeah.
Black could be threatening to make a citadel here, or just be making that connection, building out that area, keeping white from building over there as well.
We don't really have any threats from either player that looks very strong right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was looking at E6 because you get E6 and then you can make some plays with like F3 left and then the capstone comes right and makes that sort of line. But but also E6 you can build above that capstone from black and start going for the horizontal up there. There's just some different opportunities for everything here because it's still so early on. And now black
And we
building at
see
D6 doesn't want to be built around.
they're only playing on the right half of the board.
Yeah, they haven't played anything. Okay, there we go. They filled up the whole other half. Now they're going to fill up the left half.
Just
How
go
was it?
straight to a board fill.
Yeah, that was super bizarre. Yeah, that doesn't happen too often. And so far, only one capture has been made, and it's been a capstone over auto flat. So
Yeah,
they have definitely
they've
been paying
both been
attention to
playing
my
well.
captures video
It
of Tech University.
only took you 10 minutes, Sim.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never plugged Tech University. All right. So black, yeah, black playing at C2 there works for the horizontal for black as well.
Yeah, I feel like neither player took an opportunity to shift to horizontal when they could have.
Agreed.
Which I don't know if that was correct or not, but like we were talking about the F3 on move 9. There are some other moves from both players that they chose to be more defensive or build up that vertical rather than switching, which is interesting.
Yeah, and now we get white building off for this horizontal down at the bottom. And I think it's interesting what Will says here in the chat. He's saying that white looks better because they have a more central presence on the board, because they have that capstone. They're at D4, they've got the flat at D3. They have that center control more than black does. Now, I think it's interesting because I was thinking that black had more viable threats at that point, but he's got a good point that if you go on down, let's look 10 moves ahead, white probably has a better positioning because of those central forces they've got. And now black building, trying to make that threat. Now, black's able to make a threat on the following turn to stop white's threat. If white plays at A1 here, so you get white playing at A1, black then takes D1 plus, captures up onto D2, makes their horizontal attack threat while cutting off. No, actually, they can't do that because that would leave
D1
a road
plus doesn't
behind.
work, but C2 right works.
Yeah,
C2
see,
right threatens the vertical.
yeah, it does. That works as well. Vertical, no. Oh, yeah, it is threatening the vertical. You're right. C2 right would threaten it. So black could capture right to stop white's threat, and because then you would have the capstone throw to F5.
I wonder if we'll see it. I don't see a better move, but then probably D3 minus would come, and then I don't know how that
I mean,
works. Or or E5 minus. I don't know.
ultimately, white would win the position, I think, even though black would win capture wars there. White's capstone is just better placed.
Oh yeah, D1 right is also attack threat.
Yeah. Does
And
go for
that's
the
what
D1 right.
happens.
Interesting.
I wonder if we're going to see E5 minus or if we're going to see the cap move first to cut this off.
Yeah, the cap moving is interesting, but then it allows black's cap to move into the board and kind of get in on the action as well.
Yeah, because filling in at D4 looks decent for black. And white can't quite throw all the way to E1.
Yeah, I think honestly, even tossing black's capstone down to D3, not that bad.
No, it's not horrible. They could also just fill in D1. Stop white from dropping a wall there. Or even a flat at D1. Yeah, if white had gotten a flat at D1, that would have been attack threat as well. So
Yeah. Yeah,
and this is still
I don't
working
mind
toward
this
that
from
horizontal.
white at all. I think white should come down with 2e4 minus.
I agree. Because then you threaten E1 with tack on the following turn.
Hmm. I mean, you can just fill in at d4 for a threat, but I don't think that that's as good down the road. Because
Well,
d4
yeah,
makes a vertical
D4.
threat.
D4 allows the black capstone to come down, which
Exactly.
makes it more in the action.
Yeah, and you don't want that. You want to bring that capstone stack down, which wouldn't be making a threat right then, but you'd also be threatening the E1 stack. You'd be threatening tack threats. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, Will is following our same thought process in the playtest
Exactly.
chat.
Invites Black's cap down. Yeah, I like White's position here. Black's not in too bad of a spot either, to be honest. Like they're both in pretty solid positions.
F1 left is playable, actually.
It is, but I don't like it. Just because I wouldn't want to play that until I could get the capstone in range to capture E1 if there's a recapture.
A2. Interesting. So
Uh
cutting off the
yeah.
threat preemptively from black, but not making their own threat when they could have.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Now, it is important to note also that nitzel is down to just below 13 minutes, whereas Tones is at 9 minutes. So, definitely quite a big difference there in terms of time.
Yep. This is not tack yet, but there's a vertical brewing for black.
Yeah, if he plays at c3 on the following turn, that's going to be the threat. So, White can come down, which he does.
Yep.
This is not a threat, but it's dang close to two different threats at this point.
Yeah. I think this looks pretty good for white. I don't know what black needs to do here because the horizontal looks pretty blockaded on the left
Mm-hmm.
by that A2 placement.
If Black does play at c3, hoping to go for something vertical there, I think a2 is going to come right and threaten the horizontal for White.
Hmm. Or
And I
white
think
could
that
fill in
works.
at E4 and make a vertical threat.
Yeah, I don't think that one's going to be as useful just because there's a lot more that Black can do to cut that off.
It
And
depends on what black does here.
yeah, it does.
If C3,
I like a2 right if he does c3.
if C3, I'm looking at cap throw to E1. I don't think it's quite Tinue because there aren't enough white flats underneath to do
Yeah.
some sort of back and forth pattern. Instead, does go for the E4, which I was also looking at. It cuts off white's vertical pretty effectively, but now white has such a strong horizontal threat.
Yeah, this is a brutal horizontal threat here. Now we might see a d4 minus. We might even see the capstone get thrown down. But
Yeah,
yeah, this is a really strong spot for White.
just to keep white's capstone from getting toward the center, keeping capstone opposition there. But I don't know. This looks really strong for white, though.
I think the cap has to throw down.
Interesting that no walls have been placed.
Yeah, that is true.
And there's only one flat on flat capture.
Yeah, which just goes to show that they know what they're doing.
they know the old adage, more flats, more better.
Yes, more flats, more better.
Still holds true. F4 minus. This works.
Yeah, that cuts it off, and also is a threat for Black, building that vertical around that capstone. I mean, sure,
Yeah.
just dropping a white flat at f4 stops it, but definitely something that can be missed.
I think Will's right though. SF4 looks good for
Yeah,
and Tones does it. Because
coming down
this
with that wall now, just yeah, that's gonna be brutal.
it gains flats, and as white, it already looks like Tones is going for the long game, even from the first flat he played.
Yeah,
On well, I guess the second technically on E5 on move 2, it looked like he was going for a long game, And as white, you need to make up flat count somehow. This looks like a good way to do that. You get like one flat worth from placing that wall. With idea F4 minus, then 2 F3 minus,
Yeah.
if nothing else.
The +2 flat count differential move. Which really comes out to even with just placing 2 flats because it's 2 turns, but...
Yeah, that's true.
But it does mess up what white's got down there, builds for your own threat, so it works.
Yeah. Yeah, just the way Tones has been playing looks like he's going for the long game for like a flat win.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
And I think that works very well for the SF4. But B3 was played while we were discussing that, and I think that's kind of... It does, like, I mean, it's going for horizontal and or vertical eventually, but you need to make multiple captures for either of those to happen.
I think also nitzel came into this match maybe underestimating Tones, because I think he came into this pretty confident that he was going to win.
I think I came into my match in the semifinals with Tones overconfident.
I agree with that also. I think that you and nitzel were both pretty confident that you were gonna win because these guys were just in the beginner tournament. And that, I think, kind of opened your eyes a little bit. These guys
I was
pretty dang good.
At least split, but
yeah.
No.
I know that yesterday, Gladiator Sum, who was also in the quarterfinals, was playing against nitzel a little bit as practice. They were both playing a little bit. And they played a couple games trying to ramp nitzel up for those for the finals, trying to get him a little bit of experience in there. And I think that really helped a little bit because it showed nitzel some of the strategies that he's not quite up to speed on, because he did take a little break away from tack for a little bit, and when he came back, he was like, "Wait, nobody's playing the mirrored opening, and what's the Knights opening thing going on? Wait, what's going on?"
Yeah.
And so yeah, things change. Things change. Ooh, coming down with the capstone stack in a way that I did not expect.
Yeah, I was looking at either a throw or just keeping it there.
Oh, it was undone. He's probably trying to do the throw. Yeah, yep. That's what he did.
I'm not surprised. Although that's a surprising
stack.
Well, that's a surprising way to do the stack. He did -2-1 instead of 1-2.
Yeah.
Leaving more flats for black. I mean, it is a tack threat that needs to be responded, probably D1 left. And then maybe the idea is just go back. Well, you can't go back up because D1 left is a tack threat by just placing B4. I think that was a mistake.
So right now, if black does F2 minus, then I think you would see a D2 minus. So it's definitely not anywhere close to Tinue, but I think there's a way for black to get out of this and get out of it in a good way with that big stack really helping him out.
Yeah, I don't think F2 minus is the play, especially with the wall there, to just eat up the FCD after the attack threats have been diminished.
Mm-hmm.
I think D1 left is the play. D1 left looks really strong, actually. I don't know how you respond to that as white. Effectively.
Yeah.
Because if you go D1 left and then throw the capstone 3E2 left 1-2,
you get
that
walled.
just leaves the E2 stack to have free reign.
Well, yeah, and you'd get walled at E1.
Well, right. Actually, you might not even get walled at E1. You might get flat at E1 for tack.
Yeah. I don't know. It's
with the idea
one.
that E2 stack can just keep recapturing whatever ends up on E1.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, we see C2 minus. I was also looking at this, but it's not tack.
Yeah. I don't know about that one.
We could see 3 F3 minus.
Yeah, that capstone, or not that capstone, that wall coming down makes a lot of sense here.
And I say 3 because if the black tries to spread all the way left, the wall can run after it.
Yep, exactly.
It's really interesting how far apart the capstones are.
Um, I think that if the wall had come down, black would have played at b4. And that would have been
Oh,
a lot
yep,
tougher to deal with.
that's very true. Now, do we see E1 or SE1? That's the main question.
Mm-hmm. If we see e1, um, that wall's gonna move. If we see SE1, I think we're gonna see maybe a flat placement at E3. And the flat placement at E3, of course, would be to make the drawbridge threat with 2F3 minus or 2F3 plus to make that horizontal road. But that's only
Right.
if black drops the wall at E1. If black drops a flat at E1, it gets a little bit more complicated. Because you can't drop a flat there at E3 anymore, because then that would be a road for black.
You can always throw the capstone back right if flat at E1.
Yes. I don't know
And that
how
would
much you want
force a
that, though.
wall on C1. Well, not quite. It would almost force a wall on C1.
Yeah, there's the flat.
I think I like the throw back right.
You could also do 3F3 left. Bring the whole wall stack over,
True.
threaten to spread it down. The spread down would be a horizontal threat as well, because F1 plus.
Yes.
Ooh, instead you
Okay.
see that capture to make a threat.
Yeah,
Black's
but that's
gonna
a
do
lot of
F2 left.
liabilities.
What's the response to F2 left? Why would you do D2 right?
F2 left, SE3.
Yeah, and then black spreads left.
And then you can capture up with the capstone.
Yeah, I don't know
But there
how
just
good
aren't
that
white
is.
liabilities after that spread to
Mm-hmm.
recapture. It's just almost all black flats.
I mean, I guess the other play would be to capture left with F1. Get black to capture down with
And
that
then
stack,
throw
and
with
then
the
throw the
capstone.
capstone right, because then you'd be bring down at least one white flat on top of E1 again. So you'd have two white flats underneath that capstone. That would
Yeah,
have
I
been a
think
way to
that
do
was
it.
I think that actually was better, but
Yeah.
SE3 was played.
I think the F1 left was a better play in the long term, but it is something that it's a very bot-like move to force a flat capture to give you more flats on your spot before you make another capture. Very
Yep.
bot-like, not a move, not a type of move that a lot of people would play. It's just not super intuitive.
Nitzel now down to 5 minutes.
Yeah, which was
So,
interesting because he had like 4 minutes more than Tones earlier.
yep, now he has almost 2 minutes less. To be fair, though, he's improved his position significantly.
Definitely, definitely. All right, this is a
All right,
threat.
this is tack.
Playing at B5 or B4 would be a
Or
road,
B3 right.
or B3 right. Hmm.
Yeah,
That
that's not
works.
surprising to me.
Well, now you're threatening that
Threaten the
stack.
liability.
Um, I can see you don't want to do B3 right here. While it is a threat, that doesn't end well. What is the play though? That's the question.
And I mean, if worst comes down to worst for white, Tones always has e6 left to cut off a vertical.
Yeah.
And it's always easy to forget about that because you're working at the bottom of the board trying to cut it off. But you can cut it off at the other end too.
So black's sitting on 12. And 12 flats, that is, with the two komi included. And white has 11.
And black has a +2 move. And white has the wall stack that may at some point lead to some plus moves.
Hmm. Nitzel now 3 minutes. 3 minutes on the clock.
It's a blitz match now, except for one player has twice as much time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Now, I guess
what's the idea after e3 left? It's not quite
smash.
pinned.
He wants to smash. He wants the wall to come left so he can smash.
The smash isn't a threat, though.
It is not a threat, but he wants that capstone more in the game. The capstone's been out of the game. He wants to bring it in and throw in a little bit of chaos into this game now that he's lower on time.
Yes, but that loses a flat.
Hmm. I mean, he gets a +2 move right after if he wants, and he can throw the capstone down to D1, which gives him another +3 move available afterwards. So he can bring up on flats with that and also dismantle White's horizontal position. See?
Okay,
There he goes for the
we see
smash.
it.
He wants to throw down to D1 now. Or he
How
wants
does
to
white
place at
respond?
E3. He can place at E3 for a flat, but if he gets blocked in any way, it's gonna be that capstone coming down to D1, I think, to dismantle what White's got going on there.
Yeah, and I guess white doesn't have any good tack threats. Because I was
No.
trying to look for a tack threat. There's d5, but that just gives the capstone an even higher plus move.
Yep.
And then there's throwing the capstone right, which also doesn't look good for a
Hmm.
tack threat.
You could bring the whole stack on C2 to the right to block black from getting that D1 stack. And you could also bring it down, the capstone down after the fact to try and make your threat that way. Give yourself a hard cap or something, or not even a hard cap, just a regular cap to go that way. But you do have the B2 stack to worry about. That can really mess up your plans over there. So
As
not
white,
currently a threat.
do you just take on b2? Because it's not a threat for black.
I don't think you'd want to take on B2 because black will then just throw down to D1 with that capstone. And you don't
True.
want that to happen. If he leaves behind a white flat on D2, that means he's got 3 blacks on D1 and he can spread across to the left and take all of those white flats. Or at the same time, just use that stack to spread upwards again for more threats in the vertical direction. Like, there's a lot that black can do by capturing D1 here. He is
He
going
does
for
go
it.
for
How many are in here? One,
7.
two, three, four, five, six flats, one capstone. So 7 in that stack.
So the bottom flat cannot move.
Yeah, so white can still leave behind a white flat there and move. And we get the wall drop in to stop that capstone from having any sort of mobility.
Yep.
This is going to be
This is
tough.
quickly shifted for black's favor.
Absolutely has. Now, I think we're going to see an E3 placement from black here pretty soon, which
I
would give black
disagree.
attack threat. Or
I,
a D5. I think D5 is
looks
more
a lot
likely.
better.
Yeah, D5 is more likely because you have that wall stack able to come left for the positive flat count differential move.
E3 is sneakier, but
Yeah.
that wall just comes left. And the capstone, I don't think it's pinned anymore. It doesn't look pinned to me. But
Yeah.
it still just doesn't look like a smash would be good there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. D5 is much better there. But E3 is the sneakier threat. I like sneaky. I like going for the sneaky ones, even if they're not as good.
And it is also still white's move, so white might just preempt. Well, preemptive D5 doesn't help because black just throws up then.
Yeah. F2 works.
Yeah, F2 works.
Oh, he is
Does go for
preempting. Ooh, that
D5.
gives black a better flat count differential move.
Although if black throws now, he's giving up on.
Oh,
Yeah,
here's the threat
he's
from
giving up
black.
on D1. The wall comes over. The capstone is pinned now from D5, so no smash.
Black making placements, trying to make the connection up at C6 on the next turn for the road. White cuts it off.
I'm looking at the center 4 squares of the board. That's right where there's a diagonal for white that is both their horizontal and vertical road.
Yeah.
With black's capstone there, it's so hard to make threats, but that's the key area that white is not controlling, is like specifically C4.
Which was, interestingly, where white had all the control earlier on in the game.
Yes.
But gave it up with the capstone movement, which allowed black's capstone to come down and take control of that area.
I
Yeah.
wonder what Nitzel's looking at. Because he's taking a lot of time on this move.
Playing at F2. Okay, so he's setting up to be able to go horizontal. White playing at A3 to stop that horizontal.
So hard to tell who's in the lead right now.
I think a B5 placement from black makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Because that works towards the horizontal and the vertical. It goes for the A5 instead. I don't know about that one.
I'm looking at B4 for white.
I'm looking at 6B2 plus 1-5. Which is a threat.
Sure.
It's also chaos.
It is. It doesn't look like a good threat to me. But
no, it's not.
It is a
it's
threat.
not a good threat, but it is a threat, and it adds chaos and gets your capstone sort of out of that little stuck spot that it's in.
B4 is played.
See, now he could do 6B2 plus 1-5 also, and then have
Or
another
just-
flat underneath that capstone that he can use.
Or just 5B2 plus. because it's not just a vertical threat on the next turn. It would
That's
also have the
true. That's
horizontal.
true.
So the wall can't recapture that. Although
That's a
that's
good point.
assuming, I assume black plays b5 to make the horizontal threat here.
Yeah, that would make sense. You wouldn't be able to do anything about that now if yeah. So
Yeah.
b5 is played. So now white needs to do something like b4 plus or something.
Um, c4 plus looks okay to me.
Uh,
Or c3 plus onto
c3 plus.
c4.
Yeah, that works.
It's attack threat in both directions and stops.
c6 minus.
That works too, I guess.
Yeah. It's not a threat, but yeah, it does work. You'll lose any sort of capture war on c5 though.
I don't think you care though, because you just wall.
Yeah.
And then the wall can follow along the fifth rank to eat up any
You'd have
SCV
to
from
wall it at d5. Because otherwise black's going to spread to the right and make a huge flat count differential move. So you've got to
Well,
do d5 left and then wall d5. Because if you allow black to take a move with that stack at c5, he's going to do 3c5 right 1 2, which is a vertical tack threat and a +3 flat count differential move.
true.
And that is tough to come back from. Yeah, so he's going to come left.
D5 left.
And if black recaptures, then white walls at d5. If black walls here, then white spreads left.
Black,
so yeah, black has to recapture here. Now white drops at d5.
Now white drops wall d5. This looks good for white. Because, I mean, the stack can run down for like a plus, what is that, 3 move? But it's
+2.
getting dangerously close.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it is +3. But yeah, I think you would want to spread it down, which is a vertical and horizontal tack threat. Then the white wall has to come left, basically, to stop that, or one of those flats comes left or right onto c4.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, if we see the spread, nitzel down to like 10 seconds, by the way.
Oh yeah, he's down to 10 seconds. He's got to make a move. He makes the spread. Here's
if
the
threat.
wall
comes left, I'm looking at d5 to renew the threat.
That would renew it. So would a4 would also be a threat. And so would b5. A4 and B5 would also be threats in the horizontal.
A5 doesn't, or A4 and B5 don't look as good because the wall coming down can stop that.
Yeah.
And recapture.
Yeah, D5 is better because it doesn't give white the ability to recover those liabilities.
But instead we see white move the wall down on the left side.
Which is interesting.
Right, I think it might have been that he recognizes nitzel's on low time and trying to make slightly unexpected moves. Now we see the wall come left. Do we see... I think nitzel has so little time to calculate this. Are we going to see... Wow.
Oh, man, and the time gets him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think white had a lot of liabilities that they could recapture. So black, what I was looking at is something to try and get back the E2 stack with a smash of some sort.
Man, that was a really close game for sure. Like, both players came so close to winning several times, and it definitely was not decided yet at this point. Like, it could have gone either way.
I have no clue who would have won. Given infinite, well, not infinite, because then they can calculate forever.
If they got an extra hour.
Given a little more time, I don't know who wins from this position.
Oh, absolutely. It seems really variable just because of all the stacks you've got. You've got the capstones, able to do some smashing, recovering. There's a lot that can happen in this game still, but unfortunately, nitzel did run out of time here, and so Tones wins game 1 of this 2-game finals match in the 2023 Intermediate TAC Open. Now, it was an awesome game. Really fun to watch.
That was a great game.
Yeah, I'm really glad we got to see that.
That was a better game than my game 2 against Tones.
Definitely was. Yes, definitely was. Now, what this means is nitzel has to win game 2 as white if he wants to push it to a blitz tiebreaker. Now, we did see how he dealt with low time, so maybe he doesn't want that. Maybe he just wants to go quietly into the night here with with a second loss, but I doubt it. He wants to fight for this spot for sure. So thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of TAC resources like strategy guides and people to play with, whether that be right here on playtac.com or asynchronously right there in the Discord server. You can play just one move a day if you want to. A lot of great resources, a lot of great people to play with as well. So be sure to check that out, and until next time, have a great day and happy TACking.